Well, for me it was very important. I have a family history of cancer in the family, having lost my mother when I was quite young, and I was flying along happily in my professional career until it came to a very abrupt halt in my early 50s with a serious cancer diagnosis. Going through the whole system, the whole experience of treatment for cancer, benefiting from the extraordinary care and medical facilities we have here in WA, I was keen to contribute something back in return and use the skills that I'd acquired in my working life to actually help to promote the cause of research. Well, there's a very long history overseas in particular, but also within part of the research sector in Australia, showing that engagement of consumers or community representatives within medical research actually not only improves the outcomes, but actually amplifies the benefits of it. When I say it improves the outcomes, this has actually been proved by the Cochrane Institute. They conducted research in this, and it showed that research programs that have strong consumer representation actually produce better results. And the reason for that is that it helps to focus the researchers on the issues that are most important to patients and their carers. And this is a really important aspect of research. And when I say it amplifies the results, when you have a consumer who's been engaged in the research program all along, speaking publicly and particularly to policymakers, government funding bodies, etc., it actually drives the point home much more clearly. For some reason, it makes the point if the person who's speaking actually has a lived experience of the problem. If you have an interest in medicine and find the whole field of medical research really intriguing, it's a wonderful way of actually being a part of that whole world. You see these grant applications, you become very aware of the kind of medical research that's going on. I mean, what's going on here in Western Australia is extraordinary, and most people out there in the community have no idea of the quality and the excellence of the research that's going on. And the other benefit, which I suppose in a way you could say is almost selfish, is that you get to meet these wonderful researchers. The first involvement I had in consumer representation was applying to Cancer Council WA for a volunteer role. And they offered me a whole range of roles actually, but this was the one that I took. And I was actually in the very first intake of consumer representatives to be on the research grant panel. And we went through a full day of training and case studies and that, and were involved in the process right from the beginning. I just found it really fascinating. I really enjoy reading the grants. The process works extremely well. You have plenty of time to do the review that you need to do. It's very clear what you have to do and by when. And since then I've gone on and worked on a number of other panels as well, which has been interesting, often in areas beyond cancer research. Well, I've been involved in 2 actual research programs themselves as the named consumer representative, and that's very interesting because that certainly put the boot on the other foot. Suddenly I was responsible for a good plain language summary, which was quite tricky. It also gives you a very different perspective on the process, on the number of hours involved in every research program, the level of commitment and dedication by the researchers, as well as the opportunity to actually see some of this extraordinary technology and brilliance that's on display here. It's been honestly a delight. What we did was we were invited by one of the lecturers who had put together an elective unit, I believe it is, in research grant preparation, and which is something that, quite honestly, I believe should be a compulsory unit for everyone doing medicine, and elective for any other. It's a wonderful idea, because if you're going to be doing research, you're going to spend an awful lot of your time doing grant applications.
Yeah.
And being trained properly as to how to do it. And so she's engaged different people to teach the students about the correct approach for doing your project plan, for doing method, for doing budget, etc. And through CCI, I was invited to deliver the lecture on the consumer representative components of grant application, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and in fact was asked to come back, and then I ended up actually scoring and giving feedback on each of the grant applications that the students were doing for their unit, and being involved in the little dummy conference that they put on at the end, which was fantastic. And that was last year. This year we've now repeated that process. And it's so enjoyable, because you get to meet these bright, enthusiastic young people, hear all their great ideas, and also encourage them on. And I think it's such valuable real-world knowledge for them that will equip them going forward.
That's awesome. So is there anything else that you'd like to share about your passion about being involved with research?
I'd just like to say it's been stimulating, extremely enjoyable. I've met the most wonderful range of people doing this, and yeah, it's been a constant source of interesting activity, I suppose. So yes, I'd encourage anyone to get involved. Because this can't be just a box-ticking exercise. You actually want to see evidence throughout the grant application that they've considered how they would involve their chosen and named consumers throughout the lifespan of that research program. So how often, and the nature of the meetings that you would have with them, what kind of input you want from them. Some researchers, the actual program involves a process of perhaps surveys or letters or recruiting of patients, and certainly your consumer can be involved in that. But if it's a real lab-based, then it's more a matter of engagement, involvement, discussing the progress, the hiccups, ethical issues, cultural issues that may come into it, and just having a regular touch point, which may be only every 6 months, but there's got to be evidence of that thought within your plan and within your budget, and that shows up. So it's not simply a matter of saying, oh yes, tick, we talked to some consumers and they thought this was a good idea, end of story. That's not true consumer engagement.
No.
I'd just like to say it's been stimulating, extremely enjoyable. I've met the most wonderful range of people doing this, and yeah, it's been a constant source of interesting activity, I suppose. So yes, I'd encourage anyone to get involved.